that's about all the housekeeping I've got before we get started. Everybody else good?
Did you get in the corners this time?
Yeah, I got in the corners this time.
But did you knock down the cobwebs off the ceiling?
Jesus. Okay.
If I see a single skid mark in the toilets, I'm firing you.
No, I just actually walked in, and I'm sorry. Just give me a second. Okay, we're good. I'm not in trouble. Don't worry. Nothing bad happened. So.
You guys aren't even married yet. You can't even be in that much trouble.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. The marriage makes it easier to be in bigger trouble. Then it's like, if she wants to leave you, it's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Listen, all I know is as long as I don't hear my first given name, like I'm okay. I'm not in trouble. When I hear Kevin, I'm in trouble. So,
what does she call you?
K-Dog.
Yeah. K-Dog.
No, that's a legitimate question because I've only ever called you Kevin. Or does she just call you like Babe or something like that?
Yeah. She'll say like hon, honey, babe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But when I hear Kevin, I'm like, oh shit. Like the kid from Home Alone. Like, what the fuck did I do?
Oh no, she found the new egg box.
Yeah, that's actually happened. That has actually happened. You're like, what is this package? What is this?
Nothing.
It looks like it's the eggs I ordered.
They're all new,
Unfortunately, she knows what new egg is, so...
Well, I was ordering from Old Egg, but they were questionable to eat.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from across the country and around the world. This is the Life Midwest Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm Kevin Palmer. That's Lenny Wells over there.
Hello.
And joining us, our special Thai correspondent, Wes Shirley.
Sawadee Kap.
I'm assuming that means what's up. Hey, next week we're going to be talking a little bit more about why Wes is our Thai correspondent right now, actually for probably a very long time to come, but we'll talk about that later. What we're here for today is another installment in the My Friend series, and we have a good friend of ours of the show. Everyone, please welcome Jake. Jake, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh, was I supposed to clap? Sorry.
All of the clapping, please.
I assumed that was Lenny that was clapping. Was that Wes?
That was definitely Wes.
Oh. Jake just raised his hand. Do you have a question, sir?
No, I just wanted to know what the button did. I saw it and I was like, ooh, this is something I could press.
Jake hails from the Midwest originally. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, I'm from Illinois.
And does still currently, but at some point cross paths with Lenny out in the West Coast. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So actually, I crossed paths with Lenny first digitally. So we met playing Destiny. And then, essentially, I was always kind of more of a, Midwest kind of person that did not like it here, pretty much like everybody lives in the tri-state area. So I wanted to move out to anywhere that wasn't here. Moved out to Seattle, and then I actually met him for the first time probably 3 months before moving there.
Yeah. It was a time.
Yeah. I don't know. It was like a weird time. I wanted to move out there, and then I had a buddy that also knew Lenny, and he was looking for a change. So we moved out that way, and then I think he only made it 9 months or something like that, and then he moved back.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Because he just was not enjoying being away from his family. Which I get that, harder for some people than others.
I feel like the Midwest kind of sucks you back in once you try to leave. For some reason, it didn't really work too well on Lenny. So I mean, I always give him kudos. But I mean, was that the case for you? You felt like you just got sucked back in, or?
It was just like it was kind of like when he left, and then like I like moved into my own apartment, and I was paying Seattle prices, so I think I was paying like $1,300 a month for my like 1-bedroom apartment, and then plus utilities. And I was like, wow, I'm tired all the time. I want to like continue like finish school, and I was like, I can't do that while working all the time to pay for this place. So it was like moving back in was just like moving back this way was an opportunity to reduce living costs while also like pursuing further career things.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get on in the episode. But I am curious, what made you want to do a My Friend episode? What made you want to come on the show?
Lenny.
I literally
don't know
just
what to
asked
tell
him.
ya. He just asked me.
That's all right. Honesty's a good thing around here, and we appreciate that. So
So I guess my answer to that is my friend, Lenny.
fair enough. Fair enough. Well, the first thing that we usually cover on the My Friend episode is first memory. People always tend to have a kind of an interesting first memory or first thought kind of thing. I'm just curious what yours is.
Yeah. So like I always thought my first memory was like me and my buddy outside when I was like 4 years old, playing karate, and he kicks me in the face, and then I get stitches in my lip. But I find out, like, I don't know, I think I was like 17 or 18 when I found out that like that was not true. We were playing outside, and but he hit me in the face with a shovel.
Oh my god!
God damn.
Because we got in a fight, and that's when that happened. But it's like you're 4 years old, so like it's like like boom, and it's just like, well, that you just got the wrong end of that.
Okay,
Are you
like,
still
And by
friends with
shovel,
that
I mean
guy?
like a little plastic one. No, that was I have not seen that kid since I was like 5.
You stayed friends with him for another year?
Yeah, no, we like so he didn't do it on purpose. It just happened.
Oh, okay.
We were
All
4,
right. Okay.
and it was a plastic shovel. It wasn't like he was like, time to take your head off.
Oh, it's plastic. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm thinking of
Yeah,
the
just
old,
like-
rusty wooden one in your granddad's garage, like
No, just like playing in the sandbox and like bam.
Wow.
I really enjoyed how I just laughed my ass off. But Kevin, you and fucking Wes were like, "Oh my god."
Well, I mean, like, I don't remember anything else about it. I just remember like them being like, "Oh, we got to go to the hospital." And then I was like scared. This is my first like real memory. Is I was scared that everybody at like school was gonna make fun of me, and by school I mean preschool, because I had a mustache, which is an absurd thing to think for a 4-year-old.
Oh god, kids are funny.
Aren't they?
Yes, they are. I have some. All right, Jake. That's a good first memory. I'm really glad that you shared that with us. All right, so moving up from your very first memory, tell us kind of a little bit about your childhood growing up. I know, being in the Midwest, and that a lot of people that have probably a very similar upbringing. You're from a suburb of Chicago, correct?
Yeah, like real suburby.
So not a small town then.
No, I mean, so like I don't know. There's like 20,000 people that live in this area. Like my town.
Mhm.
The town next to us is like 35. Like so small, but not like super small.
Gotcha.
Small being, whereas people are like, oh yeah, like I'm from Chicago. It's like, I'm not from Chicago. We didn't have gang activity. Like, there were some kids one time that like beat each other up with hockey sticks, and the newspaper was like, yo, there was gang activity in blank Illinois. And I was like, was it though? You can blame that on the Latin Kings, or you can blame it on just like feisty Mexicans. I don't know.
Okay, so suburb adjacent of Chicago. Tell us a little bit about growing up.
Yeah, so I mean, like 0 to 5, I actually lived in Pennsylvania, which is also why I never saw that kid again. And then
Okay.
we moved out to Illinois when I was like just entering. Weird thing with that was we moved right at the summer, and we were in apartments for a while, and then like they rushed to buy a house because they wanted us to like actually start school and not have to move halfway through. So our house got purchased within like I don't know a couple of like it was like weeks, just that we wouldn't have to like be halfway through the school year and then switch to a different school if they bought a house in a different town kind of thing. Uh, and then I've lived in that same house pretty much since like my parents never moved. So that was like growing up here has been quiet, as I said, like not a lot going on here. My high school is nicknamed the pharmacy because it's just like a bunch of kids with too much time, nothing to do, and access to prescription pills.
Okay.
I mean, like I don't know. So like, there's the fancier school, like one town over. That like, depending on in my town where you like fall, you might go to that one. They nickname that one the apothecary because it's like a pharmacy, but it's a little bit fancier.
Okay.
Sounds medievally.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Midwest. But yeah, no, I don't know. So like, it's just like normal small town stuff. Growing up was like, I think there's like 3 elementary schools in my town. And then like there was one junior high. So it was like all of a sudden you get into junior high and you meet like pretty much everybody else that lives in the town. And then from there, you all go into the same high school, plus the town next to us that wasn't big enough to have a high school. They also came to ours. And then, as I said, because it got kind of weird because we took the town next to us, some people in our town went to like the high school over. So that was like kind of a weird thing about growing up. It was like you would see some people and then like depending on like where their house was, like they could be like a couple blocks from you. But like if they were just on the wrong side of this imaginary line, they would go to an entirely different high school than they did like even though you grew up with each other.
That's crazy.
Sounds like
right?
it's a typical Midwest districting nightmare. It sounds
That's
like.
what I'm saying. Absolutely. Like it's just like, dude, like I could throw a rock and hit this kid and we don't go to the same school anymore. Like he's got to drive 20 minutes.
You could literally reach over across the imaginary line with a shovel and hit this kid. And
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
And luckily in high school it's more acceptable to have a mustache, so he'd be fine.
Yes, it sounds so. So it sounds like you're from an area that's pretty comparable to where the 3 of us grew up in.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much the weird districting of the junior high and high school, but
yeah, I mean, like not a lot to it, I don't know how to describe a town other than like my town. I guess the like best way to describe it is we have one grocery store. We have to drive to like anything bigger than like a Jewel Osco, Kroger, I don't know, Albertsons. I don't know what you guys have over there. Whatever that, like we have one of those, like a couple of small, like we have like 4 Italian places, 2 pizza places, 5 churches, 4 banks, and like not much else.
Yep, sounds like Rossford.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
30
that's like that
bars.
was growing up. Yeah, absolutely that. So many bars.
Jake, one thing that you and I have in common is, well, you've known this a little bit longer than I have, but we both have ADHD. How does that like affected like you like growing up till now?
So I guess like growing up, I didn't get prescribed until I was in like 1st grade, which I know sounds like early, but like, it is what it is. So essentially, I got put on that, and then because I was having like issues with reading too, so like I had issues with reading because my eyes wouldn't focus on like things right in front of me. Like I couldn't read books when I was I couldn't read books when I was a kid. because my eyes just wouldn't focus that close up. So they would just like thought that I had like a bunch of like learning impediments. They're like, oh, this kid's like, not doing well. They found out that was the reason why. It was because like they would put a piece of paper in front of me and I would be like, I can't see this. But they would
Wow.
write on the board and I would like be like, oh yeah, that's the letter A. But then they would put a piece of paper and they'd be like, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know. But like in kindergarten, that doesn't matter. And that's why they didn't find out, because everything, like in kindergarten, like all their homework is like size 40 font.
Yeah.
Like, so as soon as they put like a real book in front of me, I was like, oh, I can't do this. But anyway, so I like got that. And then, so I was doing like special classes to like focus my eyes and be able to like do that. And then they put me on Adderall or something equivalent to that around that time. And then I was pretty much just like angry all the time about it. I was like, no, I just want to like be in class with all the other kids. Like, I don't want to go off with this random lady and then like where she just makes me like write letters and stuff for hours. Like, not hours, but it was probably like 20 minutes. But I was like, this is forever.
Especially when
like,
you
I
have
don't know.
ADHD, like God, that sounds like very alienating, especially at that age.
Yeah, it was just one of those where I was like, you just always kind of want to, like, I was just like, I just want to like be like everybody else. So essentially, by the time I hit, I think junior high, I just convinced them to like take me off of it, which is probably the wrong move, because like my grades went from like fine, like good even to like average at best. Like I just kind of rolled like a 3.0 all through high school, even though I was in like advanced like math classes and like advanced science, because like part of ADHD is just like a slightly general like higher intelligence, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're
It's not
hyper
like,
focusing.
well, like not even just hyper focusing, just the fact that like because you also have to adapt really quickly. Like if you are ADHD and you're not intelligent, you're just gonna like fail everything. If you are like, the only way you can really mask it is by like learning faster. So like essentially you learn really quick and then you just like ignore, and then you ignore it for a while and then you like start paying attention again and you just have to like backfill in all those gaps. You're just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, so like this is how we got here. And as long as you can do that, you can just like keep getting by. But then like, I got to college and that's when I was like, oh, this is kicking the shit out of me. Like I actually have to like pay attention all the time. College is hard. And that's why I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So like this ADHD thing is like a bigger part of my life because I wasn't able to just like coast anymore. So I guess like in that way, it was pretty much just like I needed a big enough challenge to like actually notice it as like a thing again, like that worked against me. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally.
Makes sense to me.
Same. You described a lot of my growing up.
Yeah. So I mean, exactly. Yeah. So it's like that would be how that affected my schooling. It was like I just wanted to be like everybody else, and then after like a while, it was just like, I guess, like you should just like realize who you are and like accept it, and then do what you need to do to like do the best for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Take me through like the social aspect of like, because I Lenny was diagnosed very late. I don't remember. Wes, when were you diagnosed?
Early, and then again when I was an adult. Kind of the same situation as Jake just described.
Okay.
When I was in like elementary school, I was on it, but then during junior high school, I wanted to be off of it because it made me a zombie, I felt.
Okay. Because I was diagnosed very, very late. I was only diagnosed a few years ago, or not even a few years ago. And so it was one of those things where like looking back, it explained a lot of my struggles that I had educationally, but also socially too. I'm just curious from a standpoint of being diagnosed. I didn't know if talk to me a little bit about like social circumstances as you kind of remember them kind of going through elementary, junior high, and high school. Obviously it was probably a little, again, a little alienating having, special classes or advanced classes when you got older, but what was that like? Take us through that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I guess thinking about it from like a childhood perspective, it was just like it was fine for the most part until we hit like the age where people were more expected to keep up with like social norms, I guess. You know, like when you're like a little kid, if you're just like always kind of like off in your own like fantasy world, you know, like first, second grade or so, like through that, it's like people don't really care. You know, like you can be imaginative and like off doing your own thing and like flight eight, and then it's like once you hit like third grade, it's like, oh, you're supposed to like start to be more focused on the things that you're supposed to be focused on. So that's where it got more alienating, I guess. Uh, I don't know. So I guess like the story I sell people when they're like, yeah, like how would you describe like that part? It was like, I don't know. So I had like I had a few close friends at that age, and then I was just look at like one day I like looked at my buddy and I was like, yo, how do I like make more friends? And he was like, so here's how you be cool. And this is my favorite line he's ever said. He was like, first you got to spell cool with a K. Everything after that was probably terrible advice. I just remember that, and I was like, okay, but probably not that. But like I don't know, that would kind of describe it. Like I had like a few close friends, but not very many. Like I don't know, like it just kind of caused like social anxiety for a while because it was like I would like think I would do something and it'd be really impulsive, and then I'd be like, oh, that was weird. Like I'm being weird, and that caused like social anxiety up until like I was friends with a lot of women, and then I used my ability to talk to women and be like always like essentially like learning about their hobbies really quickly, and then being like connecting with them. And then I used women for dopamine through high school by dating them all.
So you took the exact opposite route I did. I just leaned into being that fucking weird kid.
Yeah, no, I went to like I wasn't friends with guys because they were angry at me. Because a lot of them were like, so I like somebody I'm friends with now, like I guess like at one point in high school, he absolutely hated me because he was like, oh yeah, this girl liked me, but didn't like him, but he was interested in her. And I never even ended up actually dating her, but like didn't matter to him. Just was like a complete dick to me for like years for that reason.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but now we're like pretty chill. But you know, that's just kind of like essentially, you know, like if you can talk to women and your social acumen with men is not so great, I'll tell you, it doesn't get better because the guys will not like you. Because they all want girlfriends, and that's the only thing you can get. Yeah, I don't know. So like in high school, I think like one of my only friends was actually Rob. That was a guy.
What about your homie Josh?
No, Josh hated me in high school. He was fat, and I ran every single day. I didn't learn that I was running every single day because it like made me feel better till much later. But like essentially, like I don't know if you guys know this, physical exercise and having ADHD is like pristine. Like it actually helps like just all those like negative side effects usually kind of go away if you like exercise super regularly.
I did not know that actually.
I did not know that either. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like it helps like regulate your brain chemicals, and especially like the so like you know like it's part of it's like because of a serotonin deficiency, and exercise like literally just like slowly secretes that for like hours after you're done exercising. So it's kind of like you're like self-dosing with like essentially the same thing that like your medications do, which is like they just use heavy stimulants to like slowly secrete out like serotonin.
Get that runner's high.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, my therapist is failing me.
Well, a lot of therapists kind of focus on the like psychological side of it and not the physiological side of it. Whereas, you know, it's both a psychological and physiological problem. Because you just have like a literal you just have like a literal physiological deficiency, which is like what they say is the main cause. But I think there's like other things as well, which like with that deficiency, it also like rewires your brain slowly.
Okay,
that is fascinating.
We're having quite the episode here. Tell us a little bit about after high school. What you said? You know, you mentioned in the intro that while you were out here, part of your problem was paying for a place and continuing school. So tell us a little bit about college.
Yeah, college. Love it. Been doing it for a long time. Real inconsistently. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I don't know what you guys are like. I guess like a little bit of input would probably be helpful here. In that, like, have you guys found like one thing that you're like able to hyper focus on for like long periods, like longer than just like maybe months, short term, like years?
Absolutely.
Like, absolutely. That sounds great. I cannot.
Okay.
So like, I don't know if you guys kind of just like made that into your careers, which would be a good move. I would love to do that, but I can't find something like that. And also a lot of me is just like, honestly, at the end of the day, if I just pick something that's like mildly challenging enough, that it'll keep me interested, and then also pay me enough money that I can like have the hobbies I want to have, and switching between them all the time will become less financially problematic. That's like an ideal job. So like initially I was just like, cool, we're gonna go to school, we're gonna be in finance because like finance people make a fuck ton of money. From everything I understand, they don't make that. They don't work that hard. And then I got into finance. I like had my first internship. I think I did like 3 years in it, and then I was like, wow, this shit's corrupt. Like I like morally am not okay with this. Like essentially it all just comes down to is like, hey man, like you can't fake records. But if you're intelligent enough, you can like look at the story of the numbers and then make them seem to tell a different story than they do, if that makes sense. So like essentially I don't know, like if you take a survey at like about like, hey, yeah, so like how much do you guys like donuts, but you do it outside of a Dunkin' Donuts, the answers that you're gonna get are gonna be like, dude, look at this, like 80% of the market just loves fucking donuts. But that's like not realistic, if that makes sense,
Right.
And it can be like the same thing with finance. Like if you're just like, hey man, so like look at these numbers, and you just like frame it um against like a metric that is like more forgiving to like what it is. So like you're just like, oh yeah, so like here's our like projected numbers, and you frame it against like, oh yeah, like this is our projected numbers adjusted for X, which like X could be anything. It's just like, oh yeah, so we just take out like the fact that like we are gonna like have this many expected returns. It's like, hey, we're gonna absolutely kill it this quarter. And that's what comes into a lot of things, like when you're talking about like stocks and whatnot, and then you can adjust against that when you're like planning buybacks, and then what I'm saying, like essentially you can tell a different story based on like which metrics you're using and like focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And then even just like if you're looking at like the small town thing, so like personal investment, it's like they're like, hey, yeah, these are like really cool financial tools, and then like every single person they'll be like, yo, you should have like this much life insurance, and then they'll like bring up the fact that like you need they're like, oh yeah, but like whole life insurance, like it pays out no matter what, instead of just getting like a term policy, which like only pays out if you die in the policy period, which usually is like anywhere between like 15 and 30 years, but you're only going to buy it when you're like 20 to like 30 years old, because so you're most likely not going to do it when you're not going to have it when you're likely to die. But if you buy whole life, which is way more expensive up front, and then every month after that, they're like, it's kind of like an investment, but it's like it's a terrible investment. You'll get like 2% back, and like realistically it's just used as like a tax haven for rich people. Like that's the only person it makes sense for. But like they make more money on it, and they have more money in the midterm, and they have to give you like a really low rate of return like on it. So like, and then it just kind of becomes like you're putting this stuff in a savings account, but a savings account where like in theory they don't have to pay it back for forever, and you're not allowed to touch it. Like you're just not allowed to touch it.
Damn.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of like that's the whole basis of the industry, is just like you have to understand like where all this money, like where the money is going, what it's doing, and then how you can convince people to let you fuck them.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty bleak.
Well, I mean, okay, but like that's the why. Like, okay, so every time you go into a car dealership, they're like, "Hey, we have financing." they're not offering financing that's bad for them.
Oh,
It's only
obviously.
financing that, like, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
So it's
sure.
like everything in the finance industry is like that. Is like, oh yeah, like this is a great deal. And they like try to talk to you and it's like, all right, but like, where's the fine print? Like, where am I getting fucked? Because if you're not making money, you're not offering this.
Yeah.
And it's like, and a lot of times that like the amount of money that they're making is absurd. You're talking about like 20% a year, and it's like, oh yeah, like what kind of crazy ass rate of return that is? Like, they're like, oh yeah, like, you know, invest your money in stocks, you'll get like 5% back a year. And it's like, but like that's not what the rich people are doing, you know.
Okay, so finance is pretty bleak. So what have you transitioned to from
Yeah,
there?
so after that, I transitioned into, I was like, you know what, honestly, I'd just rather do something that I'm passionate about. And one thing that I had like always kind of been passionate about is helping other people. Then I was like, all right, but like people also kind of suck. You know who's kind of great? People that haven't been corrupted yet. Let's go teach kids. So I went in. I was like going to be an elementary education like person. So I even actually like started that, and then I went and I got a job at a preschool for like, I don't know, I think it was like a year just to like find out if I was able to do it. Um, and then I like talked with people that were doing it, and it's like, all right, so like the thing that really like broke that for me was not the job itself. I loved the job, it was great, but first of all, the pay was terrible, like absolutely miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondarily, uh, like, I mean, maybe it was just the place that I worked, but like essentially the peop the like administration was fucking awful. Like they didn't have your back at all. Like with like families. So like if something came up and the family like accused you of something, they'd just be like, "Oh, why did you do that?" And it's like,
Mm.
"Oh, so we're just gonna like take them at their word that like that's the reality of the situation."
Mhm.
Like I got accused of like making one kid go outside without their coat on for like recess time. Uh, and it was like we were outside for 20 minutes. It was not within the period of like it wasn't within the actual temperature where it was like dangerous for them to be outside by any means. But they were like, yeah, no, it's like I require that my daughter has a coat on. So like they like wrote me up for it, and they're like, yeah, so like yeah, if we get another complaint like this, you're just gonna get fired as if it happens within like the next 6 months. And I was
Wow.
like, yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, so you don't believe? I was like, first of all, like, you know, this is true and this is true. You think that I forced this kid? You think that they didn't just go, hey, I didn't want to wear my coat? Like,
Yeah, well, I think your experience is pretty typical of not
but that's what I'm
only
saying. Yeah,
yeah, but not only like private like daycares or things like that, but just schools in general. It's generally the admin kind of fucking over everybody else.
and that's what I'm saying. So that was like what really transitioned me away from it was like everything I've heard is that like administration is like the thing that makes the job terrible. Uh, so and I was like, all right, so I can't do this. Where like I'll be happy with the work, but like miserable underneath, and also have no money because like no offense, like I'm not like a totally materialistic person, but at the end of the day, like it's easier to cry in a Lamborghini than it is like in a shoebox, you know, like that's just the reality. You should at least have enough money where like you're comfortable to live like your actual life, you know. It shouldn't be like, oh yeah, like it's tough for me to even like buy a house with so little, like how little I'm making kind of thing.
Mhm.
You know, so just like that's always been my philosophy. So then I moved into the thing that I like initially, like going to college was like, oh, like I would like to be like an engineer, but like I don't want to work that hard. Like that's just straight up like what I was thinking. And that's what I've been doing, but like I don't know, like I'm just not good at doing school full time. Like like I don't know if you guys know this, but like I'm not good with time management. I don't know if you guys are. So like the fact that like every single class has like projects that always seem to fall in the same week, and I have a tendency to like be a terrible procrastinator, means that like it just like not that I can't like not that I don't end up doing fine. It's just that like the stress for me is like absolutely awful, and I'll get sick every year right after finals because like my body will just be like so stressed and suppressed until like I'm finally able to be like, oh, it's over, and then it's like, oh, but you're sick now because your like immune system was shut down.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't know if anybody else has had that experience.
I can, yeah. been there. And I've also historically been horrible with time management. I think my wife would tell you that. Or really anybody that asked.
Fair, but like at the end of the day, I'm sure you also perform well, like anything that you like put your mind to. So like blessing and a curse on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. 100%. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Jake's current life and kind of what he wants to do now and next. And maybe we'll get some hot takes too before we get out of here. So stick around. Welcome back, everyone, to the Life Midwest podcast. On the other side of the break on this fine Saturday morning or evening, depending on where you're listening from. Hey, if you're looking for ways to support us, we do have a PayPal that's live at paypal.me/thelifemidwest. There are plenty of free ways to support us as well by leaving a rating and review on your favorite listening app, as well as reaching out to us at our email at support@thelifemidwest.com. You can also interact with Lenny and our social media platforms on all major social platforms at The Life Midwest. And I think that about covers it. Folks, we have been having a great time here with Jake on the latest installment of the My Friend episode. And I want to talk a little bit more about crossing paths and kind of talking about life on the West Coast in general, as Jake is a Midwestern native and currently hails from the Midwest, but at one point, again, was on the West Coast. And just want to talk a little bit more about life out there and kind of where that fits into your timeline, Jake.
Well, let's start about like how I guess you and I first came to know each other. We it was let's see, Taken King expansion for D1 Destiny 1.
Either that, yeah, it's either that or like right before that dropped.
I think
it was like,
were we doing President of Elders together? I'm pretty sure it was Taken King. I'm like 99% sure because if I remember correctly,
So, like,
I found you and Rob on an LFG site, right?
Yeah, it was like that whatever one that was popular at the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I feel like I definitely did Prison of the Elders with Finchy a lot. But I don't remember at what point that was, because like they also brought that back a number of times as like one of those like seasonal things that would just be like, oh yeah, like you're just going to do this activity again. So it's kind of like harder to narrow down that timeline.
Yeah. Well, I think you, Rob, and Finchy kind of knew each other already, so it was probably beforehand. Because it was actually weird. I don't know if weird's the correct word for it, but you know, at the end of like a raid, you know, after you kill Oryx, and everyone's like, oh yeah, hit me up again sometime, and then you never do. But we, the four of us actually managed to like reconnect, I think, or
at least a couple hundred times.
Yeah. Yeah, at least. So that's and then shit, we've been playing Destiny together more off than on lately, pretty much ever since though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's I mean, went through a whole weird patch with the whole fact that like pretty much everybody got rid of their Xboxes.
Yeah.
But not at the same time. So it was like Finchy's broke or something, so we stopped playing with him for a while, and then like me and Rob moved over to PC, and then like he wasn't able to do that yet, but like I think you already had a PC, so like we played with you a bit, but like at that point you had just had like your kid.
Yeah.
So like, you know, that go. It was it has been a mess ever since about like actually finding time for that. And then I don't know, like I always get very busy with work, so that always makes it difficult. But yeah, so I mean, essentially we started there, and then yeah, as I said, like I just kind of like was like, hey, yeah, like I would like to move out there, like to Seattle, because it's like, I don't know, like I had just gotten out of like a relationship, and it was just like, hey, yeah, like I need a change, and I was already like planning on moving.
I don't really remember if we ever had this conversation, but was Seattle just happen to be like convenient since you already knew somebody out here, or were you just thinking more West Coast in general?
I don't know how to say it other than just like it's kind of my vibe. Like I like cities and like but I don't like big cities. Like I like the things that are like associated with it. So like I like the fact that like it's like a tech city, right? So you have like a lot of like new age ideas. You also get a lot of the like kind of crunchiness that comes from like that like upper Pacific Northwest area. And I don't know, like it was like one of the places that like me and Lexi had talked about going to like a bunch of times before we ended up breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like, you know, if we were gonna go somewhere. But yeah, so essentially like it was one of those where it was like that was one area we just kept like talking about it, and it kept coming back up. It was like, yeah, like I think Seattle would be nice because it's techy, but it's also like lush and it's a little bit more temperate as far as like things go. Because like I don't know, like I feel like everybody that's like, oh, I love California because I just love the sun. And it's like, I don't like it when it's hot. I don't know what to tell you. Like 85 degrees and Jake, not friends.
And then you moved here.
Yeah, and it was great. They like basically was never that. It's just like real nice and like middle of the road all the time. I don't know. Like I do like snow, but like the nicest thing about that is like you can just drive for an hour and like be up in the mountain with snow. Like if you want to do something, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
So had you ever been up this way before moving?
only the one time when I came out.
Okay, so
The answer to that is definitely not.
well, I mean, but yeah, but at that time, like that was pretty much like already settled, though, right?
Yeah, no, I like straight up was like looking at like places.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, like I feel like you being there like definitely helped the case. Uh, if that makes sense. Like I don't know. It was like, yo, like I already know somebody there, like generally. Um, and then like the city's cool. Uh, like Rob agreed to it because it was like he really wanted to go to like a younger, like kind of one of the like vibrant tech cities as well. So he was like kind of more about Austin.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was like not so excited about like Texas.
Agreed. Texas
Even though
does
like
suck.
like everybody's like, oh yeah, like I don't know, like I don't know what it's like in your part of the Midwest, but my part of the Midwest is like everybody's like, oh yeah, we're going to Tennessee or we're going over to fucking Texas, and it's like the houses are so cheap, and it's like, all right, but like people in California would tell you that the houses in Illinois are real fucking cheap. Uh,
Right.
you know, like it's what it like it's like a matter of perspective, and they're like, oh yeah, but like you pay way less in taxes, and it was like, yeah, because they don't make enough money and they have to be like supported by the federal government. But anyway, like it's just one of those things where like there's like this wet dream about like Texas and like Tennessee and those places around here, as far as like, hey, when we retire, this is where we're gonna go, or they go to Florida because you know,
Who
they're
doesn't?
like, yeah, like sun all the time, and go down there and I can die. um
Okay, so you moved out here. What'd you do from then?
Ooh, yeah. So I was bartending before I moved out there. And then I moved out there and I was like, we're just going to keep doing that. Uh, so, like, I just found a place and it was like my first pick of a place. And it's actually like not the original Red Robin, but like it's one of like the busiest ones because it's right next to Boeing over in like the Renton area, but it's like in the landing. So we get like not only a bunch of like people from Boeing there literally all the time, just to, like make sure that it's always busy. But you also get like all the people that are like shopping in the area, and then you also get like a number of like football players because it's not the closest. Technically, it's not the closest one to like the stadium, but like the one that is closer was the one that was over on the pier that I guess is closed now. Uh, So like, but like you know, they don't actually want to go over to the pier because like, who wants to go into the most like what do they call it, touristy area of the city.
Well, their practice facility is like right up the road from there too.
Yeah. So like we just like I don't know. So you would get like a nice combination of like the Seattle Seahawks, like including on like game day. It's like people are just driving back into like their homes, and it's like a nice like little shot off of the I-5, right? That's the I-5.
405, yeah.
405, yeah, 405 south. The I-5's a little bit more over. Yeah, so like you just get like tons of people, like always. So it was just like I was like, this will be like a nice stopping ground, and I'll like go find a better job. And then I was like, oh no, like this place is always busy, and I don't love the job, and I don't really care about the food, but like I was making really good money, so I just kind of stayed there. And it was like enough where I could afford my own place, but I was living with Rob, and then he went back after he was having a hard time, and then I like got my own place because I could. Yeah, I don't know, like I just like really enjoyed the city, but it was just one of those where it was like it came up and like it was like, all right, so am I gonna spend another year here? And I was starting to like I don't know. So it was like right after it was like right before the holiday season, which is rough because like that's one of our busiest times. Uh so I was like, all right, so I'm either doing like a full another year here, like feeling the burnout and then like the preemptive burnout, or I'm gonna be moving back now and I can actually start to focus on like what I want to do, which is like something beyond this, because where like just the like constant motion, like really just like played really well into my like ADHD and everything. Uh, the job itself, and it paid well enough, but like the job itself is not something you can keep up forever. So I'm like, yeah. So it was just like I decided to go back into like school basically full time, just like doing engineering stuff. And I was like, I can do that easier if I am not here.
Gotcha. So
So it
that's what you're
wasn't
doing
like
now.
yeah, and that's like and that was well I yeah, so it was what I was doing, and I came back and I got a different bartending job, but I was doing it like real part-time because it's like I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like once you have the skills and it's just like easy money. Like, you know, I go in for a shift on a weekend, I make like anywhere between like 200 to like 400 to $500 in a night. Um and like, you know, it just like it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Uh So yeah, I don't know, like that's what I was doing, and I was doing school, and then the pandemic hit, and that kind of put the damper on that. So like the place that I worked at, like not worked at the place, so I was like a bar manager over at like this small like family restaurant. It was like a fancy wine bar. We had just opened like I don't know, like a year and a half before. So when the pandemic hit, they were like, "Hey, yeah, uh, we can't be open anymore because we don't have enough money to pay the bills for the next month without like literally any income." Uh, so they were like, yeah, we just like we decided that like we're just gonna close because like you know they say it's gonna be a couple of weeks, but you know seems unlikely,
Right.
you know. So they just kind of like closed their doors, and I was like, all right, so I don't have a job anymore. And then my buddy Josh, who he mentioned before, he's like my best friend now. His dad had just died, and he was working in like retail, like he was a retail manager.
Okay.
And he was like, "Hey, yeah, so like he's like, I want to quit this because I also want to do anything else in my life, and you know, like it's kind of one of those like moments where something big like that happens, and you just kind of look at like everything, and you're like, all right, is this actually what I want from my life? And he was like, no, but he's like, but I do need to like remodel the house because him and his dad have been planning for years to just like fix up the house, but like his dad had a bunch of like health problems that like stopped him from ever actually doing it.
Okay.
So we like essentially we just like did what they said they were gonna do. Like I came over every day that I didn't have class, and we would just like so like we tore out the flooring entirely, like all the way to the subfloor in his kitchen. Took all of that stuff out. Absolutely like entirely redid that. Redid like the main living room. Redid like the bedrooms, like redid like the entire flooring. Like he had carpet in there. He was like it was filled with like cigarette smoke 'cause his dad was a smoker. Uh, like took all that out, put in like hardwood, you know. So like it was just like I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months of just like consistent work. And also because we're not that like I was not like by trade like a construction worker.
Mhm.
It was a lot of learning and then doing something and then being like, oh, this is wrong, and then redoing that thing. So it was a really cool experience, and it was like right at the time where I was like, all right, like what else can I really be doing right now, other than like online school, because everything had shifted like entirely online. And then I don't know if you guys have ever done online school. It is terrible for people with ADHD because you sit in front of a computer that you can do anything on.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's
very-
it's
Yeah.
the worst.
I do it online. And yeah, it's definitely has its challenges. Thank God for Adderall, honestly. But yeah.
Yeah, even with it, I was like having a rough go of it. And then since then, I've been working at like Best Buy. But like I started and I've been promoted like 4 times since I started there.
Oh, cool.
So like I started as like just like a retail associate, and then I got promoted to like this thing called like a consultant. After like I don't know 3 months or something like that. So I started actually making commission on everything I sold. And then I got like another promotion from like part time into like, because it was like a part time consultant position into like a full time consultant position, which also comes with like a bunch of benefits and then like a pay boost of like a couple of bucks an hour. And then like the next job from there is like into a senior consultant, which is where like you also do like in-home consultation. So like you go into people's houses and you sell things to them. And I actually work out by where the Bears practice. So there's apparently a theme of me being near like where NFL teams practice, which is kind of cool. But also I don't care about football, so it doesn't matter to me at all. So like I've literally met some like Bears players and I've been like, oh, nice. Like that explains why you're 6'7" and 300 pounds. That's awesome, man. Anyway, I'm not going to remember your name.
Is there like this weird, like, I don't know quite like the way to describe it, but like, do they like, are these like football players like that you've interacted with, like, do they like appreciate that you don't give a shit about who they are? Are some of them like, how do you not know who I am? Has there ever been any of that?
So like I always just feign like I might actually know who they are. If that makes sense. I don't know. Like you see like a gigantic black dude that's 6'7" comes in and then he's like, hey, I want to buy like a MacBook for my girlfriend because it's Tuesday. I go, oh, cool. And I just go, this guy, like in my mind, I'm just like, this guy plays on the Bears because he rolled up in here in like a fucking Land Rover that's worth like way too much money. So either he's really good at stealing shit, or he has like he's a Bears player because like I don't know what to tell you, like not that many jobs where you get paid super well for being gigantic. Like construction workers don't make that much money. I mean, like I guess that's a little stereotypical, but at the same time, like I'm close enough to the Bears facility that like every time it's just like this is not a leap to make,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of one of the, like I don't know, like I don't like act like I know who they are, but I also don't act like I have like no idea who they are. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Like I'm not gonna be like, oh, you're like, and then, like because I wouldn't know anyway. But I don't know. Like some of the guys at work are like, dude, did you get a picture with him? And I was like, dude, I don't even know who he is. But they're like, but how do you learn his name? And it was like, well, he gave me his phone number because he like it's connected to his rewards account. So like I just looked at the name and I was like, oh yeah, like I could Google that. Yeah. So like I don't know, like I don't think anything of it. And like I make commission on the things that they buy, and they like buying expensive stuff, so like it works out great for me.
It's funny because it reminds me of so it may only be a funny story for Lenny, but one of my coworkers at Apple actually troubleshot an iPhone for Torrey Smith of the Baltimore Ravens. And he had no idea that he was helping Torrey Smith of the Baltimore Ravens. And so I'm at the other end of the Genius Bar with my lead genius, and we're both like freaking out, like, oh my God, that's Torrey Smith. Like, how cool is that? Because the Ravens were playing the Lions that weekend. And so it was just funny how he was like in fucking Toledo, Ohio, and he had an issue with his iPhone, and this guy was like helping him, and he just had no idea. And I told him afterwards, he was like, oh, cool. And that was the end of the conversation. Like,
well, I mean, they were probably staying in Toledo. I mean, because like as shit as Detroit is, like downtown and like those hotels are probably pretty expensive. So like like a really nice like hotel in Toledo that's comparable to Detroit is probably significantly less money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whatever the reason was, it was funny as hell. So it's funny because like he didn't get a picture with Torrey Smith, but I took a picture of him helping Torrey Smith. So
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, if it wasn't Brian Urlacher, I wouldn't know who he was.
yeah.
And that guy doesn't even play anymore, and I mostly know him from all the billboards.
Right.
I don't know if you guys ever driven down to Chicago, but all it is pictures of like this bald man with hair all of a sudden, and they're like, and it's just like some kind of pun about like playing football. It's like this kind of comeback or something like that. Like this you wish that you like your football team had a comeback like this hairline and like shit like that, and you're just like, great. It was like he obviously had surgery, but yeah, we'll pretend that it's your cream that he's putting on his head.
So is that what you're doing now? Is you're
Yeah,
still at
I
Best
just
Buy?
like
Okay.
I do that. It's not really what I want to be doing, but like you know, like it's easy money. So
Have you decided what you want to do? Like, do you know what's next for you?
yeah, so like electrical engineering is what I'm still going to school for. It's just like you know, it's one of those where it's kind of you gotta finish the degree, which I'm like, I don't know, I think a year from now.
Okay.
Because let me tell you, finance, as much as it sounds like it's all about math, they make you take very little math. Whereas calculus like 1 through 3, and then differential equations, definitely required to be like an engineer. So it was just been like a long path of like, hey, so you know these things that like anybody else that like got into college and was trying to do this would have done in like their first 2 years. It's like, well, now you have to do it before you can even take like all of your next classes.
That
Because
sounds
like all of
absolutely
my like,
horrible.
well, it's just one of those where it's like I have all of my my gen eds are done. Like I don't have to take a different course other than like STEM based like science math courses basically for the rest of my college career. Because I basically like I'm a semester and a half away from like getting a finance degree. You know, like that's where I left it because I was just like, yeah, I can't do this, so
Yeah.
don't really care. Like, why would I get this? Like, I don't know. Like, it might help me get a job in like something random, but not something I'd want to do. And
Gotcha.
so yeah, I don't know. So like, essentially, it's just like at this point, just taking like a couple classes at a time, just doing like whatever it is that is sequential, because essentially, you know, you can't take like circuit design 1 and circuit design 2 at the same time. So it's just kind of like a lined up, like you got everything planned out, but you can only do so much at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, at
Which,
least you can't overload yourself and get into that
oh, I mean,
ADHD nightmare, right?
I
Maybe
mean,
in
like that is
theory.
the upside, other than the fact that, like, you know, I don't know if you know this, engineering courses are hard.
Yes, they are.
Like they're intentionally super difficult.
Yeah, they're no joke. That's for sure.
Yeah, like some of the professors, it's like they make it so they're like, oh yeah, like everybody's pretty much going to get a D on this test, and then we're going to curve it, uh, and then like a D will become an A, and the people that got a 30% will get a C, and it's like, but they got a 30%. How is that a thing? You know, but like it's, I don't know, like a part of it is also like when you get into like a really hard math and sciences, they're also looking for like people that are just absolutely outstanding. Like they're looking for the next person to like join their research team kind of thing. So like they make it intentionally super hard just to like see if anybody can do it. Stark difference from the fact that like, you know, anything under a like a B in anything in business is like, oh, you just like didn't go to class. Not to say that business is easy. There's a lot of challenges with it as well, but like they're just different breeds of like things.
For sure. For sure.
But also, you
100%.
know, like I don't really mind somebody that like got C's going through like things, and then being like some guy that like manages money in the like in like some bank somewhere as like a middle manager. I do definitely mind some engineer who got C's through his class and barely paid attention building bridges. You know, like it's just different kinds of like outcomes.
Sure. sure.
Depends on the context. Yeah.
Well,
No, I'm saying it depends on the context of like whether like they're building bridges or whether they're just
yeah,
getting by in business school. So
yeah, no, yeah. Is there anything else you want to say? Do you have we do shout outs here? Is there anybody you want to shout out? Anything? Final thoughts?
Yeah, there's this like really sick person that's married to a good friend of mine, Jenny. Big shout out, Jenny.
Okay.
I do have one final comment and two questions. Comment is, your story is really good, and I don't know if you've listened to any of the podcasts, but my favorite part of doing this podcast is hearing people's stories, because you can kind of pit them against your own story or one's own story, and kind of get an idea of how other people are living life, what the human experience is, so on and so forth. And our interest in stories surprisingly align. I guess not surprisingly. I mean, we're both from small suburbs, white America, whatever. But I'm also working to become an electrical engineer, I believe. I haven't started the process yet, but I already have a bachelor's, so it'd be like a master's thing. The questions do involve that. So are you currently working with anything like 3D printers, Raspberry Pis, Arduinos? Are you playing around with that stuff yet?
Yeah, so like my dad is he got his degree in mechanical engineering, and then also I think it was not electrical, but like something else in his like, so he has a master's, and his master's was in mechanical, and his undergrad was in some other form of engineering. I think it was like either electrical or like software, something, like something semi-related. So I grew up like all around that. I definitely do have a 3D printer. And I like currently have like a server that I'm like I connect everything to. So like, yeah, I have like a full media server. It's also going to run like Home Assistant, if you know what that is. Like essentially, instead of having like Alexa all through your house, you can just kind of like hook it up to like do all of those things, but locally, so that you don't have to have Jeff Bezos's setup predecessor in your living room. So like it's gonna do that. Like I definitely do like a lot of like projects, but I like, part of me is doing a lot of those projects because of the like really weird culture around engineering, where it's like, yo, like you're not allowed to just like do the classwork. You have to like live this shit. Like they expect you to be like, yo, like this is what I work on in my free time. Not that I don't find it like fun and interesting, but also like there's a bit of that like, if I don't do this, then like I'm not going to be competitive kind of thing. If I don't know if that's like your feelings about it, but it's like it feels like that's the culture as I see it.
Definitely. It's such a deep subject, and if the school's just trying to weed you out, right? As you said, you don't want people who aren't paying attention working on bridges, but like you have to find some type of passion within it and really expand your skills that way, I feel. And I haven't done the school aspect of engineering, but I've owned 3D printers and home CNC machines, and I just find it massively interesting. If there's a problem, there's all of a sudden a solution because you have home automation at your fingertips.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that aspect of it. Especially like 3D printers. It's just like, like one of my favorite things was like for a long time I was like, so I like in my free time I do a lot of like woodworking and things like that. So like for a long time I was like I really wanted to get like a central like dust collector, but instead I just kind of like 3D printed like adapters so that I could attach like my regular shop vac to it, to like the different machines, because I was like, yo, like those like wood chip collectors essentially cost like hundreds, if not like $1,000. I was like, that's a lot to spend on something that's just like, so I don't have to sweep as much. But I can 3D print this thing that'll just like let me plug in my regular ass like hose, turn it on, and then like actually just like do the same job,
Right, print yourself
like
a ground funnel.
That's my favorite. Exactly, that's like my favorite thing about like 3D printers is just like lets you do the things that you're like, I already have a solution, I just can't get there.
You wouldn't 3D print a car, would you? I absolutely fucking would.
I mean, oh my.
Last question. So you're in the Chicago area. How do you feel about those McBagels?
What's a McBagel?
It's like it's from McDonald's. They have bagels. They don't have them in other parts of the U.S. as far as I know anymore. We used to have them in the Toledo area. It's like a steak, egg, and cheese bagel, or like a sausage, egg, bacon, egg, and cheese bagel. And it's the only thing worth getting on their menu, I feel. But they only have it in Chicago area.
Huh. I think I have had it once. I'm not gonna lie to you, McDonald's breakfast, not something I get super often, and when I do, lately it's been like they have that like menu where it's like, oh, get like 2 sandwiches for $3, and it's not on there, so I don't order it. Because if I'm gonna be at McDonald's, I'm gonna try to give them as little money as possible.
Oh, agreed.
It's like one of those where it's like, you know, it really goes back to those high school days where it's like, well, you could order a Big Mac for $9, or you could just order 8 McDoubles.
I'm not gonna lie, for a minute there I thought we were gonna get a McDonald's hot take, but
No, nothing. I don't have anything bad to say about McDonald's other than like, you know, it's
McDonald's.
yeah,
All I'm
like,
saying is if I see Ronald out in public, I'm beating his ass.
dude, he's gonna bring that McBeat down on you.
Oh my god. On that note, Jake, anyone else that you want to shout out?
No, nobody I can really think of.
No Ronald
But I
McDonald.
appreciate that. You know what? To his much more attractive non-fiance, Miss Wendy.
Oh, smoking.
Love you,
hot.
babe. Hot and juicy.
Jesus Christ.
Wes, how about you?
Let's see here. Shout out to our special guest, Jake. Thank you for coming on. Loved your story. Shout out to Thailand because I'm here, I guess. I think I'll leave. Oh, call your moms. Shout out to mothers.
All right, Kevin, who you want to shout anybody out today?
I want to shout out Torrey Smith of the Baltimore Ravens.
He's gonna Google his name and like it's gonna like this random podcast gonna come up. He's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then he's gonna listen to it, and I'm gonna get a scholarship.
There you go. There you go.
Shouting out Torrey Smith also.
So it was a long con. Are you sure you don't want to shout out any of those Bears players you've been hooking up?
I don't know their names.
It's fair.
But don't worry, they be paying my tuition, they just don't know it.
Hey, I also want to shout out my beautiful fiance Ashley, as well as Jake for coming on. Appreciate you coming on the show and giving us something to talk about and a life to explore and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Examine. There we go. We'll say examine. I'm going to go with examine. Lenny, how about you, man? Anyone you want to shout out this week?
First and foremost, as always, shout out to my wife Brittany. She's very mad at me right now, or annoyed. The children have decided to commit anarchy while recording this podcast. Kevin, I just want to apologize for the editing you're gonna have to do. Obviously, I want to shout out Jake. Thanks for being my buddy. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you agreeing to do this. And that's it for right now. I don't have any NFL people I want to shout out.
Not a single one?
Not a single
You're a
one.
madman.
Yeah.
On that note, we're going to leave it there, folks. Hey, don't forget to reach out to us at our socials at The Life Midwest. Interact with Lenny and give him something to do. I'm just kidding. He's got a lot to do, but he does like talking to you on social media if you want to interact with us. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. Until then, call your mom. Shout out to parents again, but call your mom and just check in on her, make sure she's doing okay. We'll talk to you next Saturday and every Saturday here on the Life Midwest podcast. Take care. Have a good one.
All right, later.
Opung Cop. Swaddy Cop.
Wes, what the fuck are you saying?
Oh, thank you and deuces and Thai.
Oh,
Also
deuces. All right, deuces.
And cut.